"You don't belong in this line, ma'am. Step aside before I make you step aside." Those were the last words the head of security at JFK ever said to Simone Biset. He saw a woman in a hoodie and assumed she was nobody. He didn't know he was blocking the woman who had just signed the deed to the entire airport 20 minutes ago. In this video, we are telling the insane, true-to-life story of how one arrogant mistake on a Tuesday morning led to a live CNN broadcast that shattered careers and served the coldest plate of instant karma history has ever seen. You are not going to believe the look on his face when the breaking news hit the terminal screens. The air inside JFK's Terminal 4 usually smelled of stale coffee and expensive perfume. But today, to Simone Biset, it smelled like victory. Simone adjusted the strap of her vintage leather weekender bag, a deceptively simple piece that actually cost more than a mid-sized sedan, and checked the time on her phone. 7:15 a.m. The ink was barely dry. The acquisition of Transatlantic Holdings, the parent company managing logistics and security contracts for 3 major East Coast airports, including JFK, had been finalized at 6:58 a.m. in a closed-door digital signing. Technically, as of 17 minutes ago, Simone Biset wasn't just a passenger. She was the landlord. But she wasn't here to gloat. She was here to fly to Zurich for the transition meeting. She pulled her hood up slightly. She was tired. The negotiations had run for 36 hours straight, and she had dressed for comfort, a charcoal cashmere hoodie, black leggings and sneakers. She looked like a college student heading home for laundry day, not the CEO of Apex Global Ventures. She approached the global elite security lane, a reserved checkpoint for diplomats, A-list celebrities, and the ultra-wealthy. There was no line. Just a velvet rope and a podium manned by a security officer whose badge read R. O'Malley. He was a thick-set man, with a buzz cut and a jaw set in permanent irritation. He was currently leaning over the podium laughing at something on his phone. Simone cleared her throat politely. "Good morning?" O'Malley didn't look up. He swiped a thumb across his screen. "Excuse me," Simone said a little louder. "I have a 8:30 flight." O'Malley finally looked up. His eyes scanned her from the sneakers to the hoodie. He sneered a quick, dismissive twitch of the lip. "Economy screening is downstairs to the left. Follow the blue signs." "I'm flying global elite," Simone said calmly. She reached into her pocket to pull out her boarding pass and her Centurion black card, the invite-only titanium card that usually acted as a universal key to any door in the world. "Yeah, and I'm the King of England," O'Malley muttered. He pointed a thick finger away from the lane. "I said economy is downstairs. This lane is for pre-screened priority members only. Do not waste my time." Simone paused. She had dealt with this before. Being a black woman in high finance meant she was constantly underestimated, but being stopped at a security checkpoint she technically owned was a new layer of irony. "I am a pre-screened priority member," Simone said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming steelier. "If you scan my boarding pass, you'll see I'm seat 1A on Swissair Flight 101. I'm asking you to do your job, officer." O'Malley stepped out from behind the podium. He hooked his thumbs into his tactical belt, puffing his chest out. The power trip was activating. "And I'm telling you that you don't fit the profile for this lane. We've had a lot of fraudulent tickets lately. Scammers printing fake passes to sneak into the lounge. You look like you're lost, sweetheart. Move along before I write you up for loitering." "I don't fit the profile," Simone repeated, her eyebrows raised. "And what profile is that exactly?" "The one that can afford a $20,000 ticket," O'Malley spat. Behind Simone, a throat cleared loudly. She turned to see a man in a bespoke navy suit pulling a Louis Vuitton rolling case. He checked his Patek Philippe watch with exaggerated theatricality. This was Arthur Pendleton. Simone recognized him instantly from the business tabloids, a hedge fund manager known for aggressive takeovers and a very public divorce settlement last year. "Is there a problem here?" Pendleton asked, his voice dripping with condescension. He didn't look at Simone. He looked straight at O'Malley. "I'm in a rush. Can we clear the obstruction?" "Just handling a stray Mr. Pendleton," O'Malley said, his tone instantly shifting to deferential syrup. "Sorry for the delay. This woman is refusing to follow instructions." "I am not refusing instructions," Simone said, turning to face Pendleton. "I am attempting to board my flight just like you." Pendleton finally looked at her. He laughed a short, sharp bark of amusement. "You in global elite? Listen, darling, the staff entrance is probably around the back. Let the adults through. Simone felt the heat rise up her neck. It wasn't anger. It was the adrenaline of the hunt. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "Officer O'Malley, is it? I'm going to give you one chance to scan this boarding pass. If you don't, you are going to regret how this day ends." O'Malley's face turned red. He keyed his radio. "Central, I have a code Bravo at checkpoint 1. Belligerent passenger refusing to vacate the elite lane. Need backup." He smiled at Simone, a cruel, satisfied grin. "You want to play the big shot, fine. Let's see how big you feel in a holding cell." Within 60 seconds, the atmosphere at Terminal 4 shifted from annoyance to spectacle. 3 more security officers jogged over their heavy boots, thudding against the polished terrazzo floor. Travelers in the adjacent regular security lines stopped unpacking their laptops to watch. People pulled out their phones. The lens of public scrutiny was now open. "Ma'am, put your bag on the floor and hands behind your head," the lead responding officer barked. "I have done nothing wrong," Simone said, standing her ground. She held her phone up, recording the interaction. "I hold a valid first-class ticket. Your colleague refused to scan it based on my appearance." "She's causing a disturbance," O'Malley shouted, playing to the crowd. "She threatened me. She said I'd regret it if I didn't let her through. That's a threat against a federal officer." Arthur Pendleton sighed loudly, checking his watch again. "Oh, for heaven's sake. Just arrest her already so I can get a drink. Some of us actually contribute to the economy." One of the officers grabbed Simone's arm. She didn't resist physically, but she pulled her arm back sharply. "Do not touch me. I am cooperating." "You're detained," O'Malley gloated, stepping close to her, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You think you can just walk in here with a hoodie and act like you own the place? Learn your place." Simone looked him dead in the eye. The chaos was swirling around them, the squawk of radios, the murmurs of the crowd, the flashing of smartphone cameras. "I don't think I own the place, Officer O'Malley." "I know." He didn't understand her. He just laughed. They corralled her away from the velvet rope, pushing her toward a glass-walled holding area adjacent to the checkpoint meant for secondary screening. It was a fishbowl. Everyone could see her. As she was led away, Arthur Pendleton stepped up to the podium. He slapped his boarding pass down. "About time," he announced to the room. "Good job, officer. Keep the riffraff out." "Any time, Mr. Pendleton," O'Malley said, scanning the man's ticket with a flourish. "Have a safe flight." Inside the glass holding room, Simone sat on a metal bench. She wasn't panicked. She was calculating. She unlocked her phone and opened her secure email app. There was a message from her chief legal officer, Nathaniel Reed, time-stamped 2 minutes ago. Subject transfer complete. Body. The wire hit. Ownership is effectively transferred. The press release is scheduled for 800 a.m. EST, but we can push it early if you want. Simone typed back. Push it. Now. And get me the direct line for the TSA District Director and the JFK Board of Governors. I'm currently being detained at my own checkpoint. She hit send. Outside the glass, she watched Arthur Pendleton gather his belongings. He paused to look at her through the glass. He smirked, mimed a crying motion with his hands, and mouthed the word loser. Simone didn't react. She just watched him walk toward the lounge. She knew exactly where he was going. He was going to the Windsor Suite, the most exclusive lounge in the airport. A lounge that, as of this morning, was undergoing a management review. A female police officer entered the holding room. She looked tired and less aggressive than O'Malley. Look, miss, if you just apologize to Officer O'Malley and go to the economy line, we might be able to drop the disturbance charge. We ran your ID. You don't have a record. Don't ruin your life over an ego trip. Simone looked at the officer. Officer, what is your name? Officer Mendez. Officer Mendez, Simone said softly. I want you to look at that TV screen on the wall outside, the CNN feed. Mendez frowned, confused. She turned her head to look through the glass walls at the large monitors hanging over the security checkpoint. The screen was currently showing a commercial for pharmaceuticals. Just wait, Simone said. Give it 30 seconds. I can't wait, Mendez said, reaching for her handcuffs. I need to process you. If you cuff me, Simone said, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried more weight than a scream, you will be the second person fired today. I am giving you a professional courtesy. Watch the screen. Something in Simone's voice stopped Mendez. It was the tone of absolute, unwavering authority. Mendez hesitated. She looked back at the screen. The commercial ended. The frantic breaking news graphic spun onto the screen in bright red and white. The chyron at the bottom of the screen read, Major acquisition, unknown tech giant buys JFK Security Holdings. The news anchor, Anderson Cooper, appeared on screen. Breaking news out of New York this morning, in a stunning dawn raid deal transatlantic. Holdings, the private firm responsible for security and logistics at JFK LaGuardia and Newark, has been acquired for $4.2 billion. Mendez's eyes went wide. She looked back at Simone. Keep watching, Simone said. The buyer, Anderson Cooper continued, has been revealed as Apex Global Ventures, led by the elusive and brilliant CEO, Simone Bisset. A photo of Simone appeared on the screen. It was a professional headshot, but the eyes were unmistakable. Mendez looked at the screen. Then she looked at the woman in the hoodie sitting on the metal bench. Then she looked at the name on the ID card she was holding in her hand. Simone Bisset. Mendez's face drained of color. She dropped the ID card. It clattered on the floor. Oh my God, Mendez whispered. Simone stood up. She smoothed out her hoodie. Officer Mendez, please open this door. I have a staff meeting to conduct. And I believe Mr. Pendleton is waiting for me in the lounge. The glass door of the holding cell didn't just slide open. It felt like a seal breaking on a vacuum. Officer Mendez held the door, her hand trembling slightly. She didn't look like a police officer anymore. She looked like someone who had just seen a ghost. Ms. Bisset, Mendez stammered, stepping aside, pressing her back against the glass to give Simone as much room as possible. I am so incredibly sorry. I had no idea. The protocol it usually requires. Simone held up a hand. Breathe, Mendez. You were doing your job. You listened. That's more than I can say for your colleague. Simone stepped out of the fishbowl. The air in the terminal felt different now. The ambient noise of rolling suitcases and announcements seemed to have dropped a few decibels, replaced by a low, buzzing murmur. Near the podium, Officer O'Malley was still holding court. He was leaning back against the high desk, laughing with a TSA supervisor. He was in the middle of a story, gesturing broadly with a bottle of water. So I told her, "Honey, the only priority you have is getting a job." You should have seen her face. She pulls out this black card like it's magic. Probably a prop she bought online. These influencers, I swear they think. O'Malley stopped mid-sentence. He noticed the supervisor's eyes widen. He noticed the sudden stillness of the passengers in the queue. He turned around. Simone Bisset was standing 10 feet away. She wasn't in cuffs. She wasn't being escorted by police. She was standing with her hands in the pockets of her hoodie, staring at him with a gaze that was calm, clinical, and utterly terrifying. Officer Mendez was standing behind her, head bowed, acting more like a bodyguard than an arrester. "You let her out," O'Malley barked, his face flushing a deep, angry red. He stepped forward, hand going to his belt. "Mendez, I told you to process her. She's a security risk." "Stand down, O'Malley," Mendez said, her voice shaking but firm. "Excuse me," O'Malley scoffed. "I'm the lead officer on this shift. I give the orders. You put her back in that cell or I'll have your badge too." He turned his sneer onto Simone. "And you think because you batted your eyes at a rookie cop you can walk away? You're in federal jurisdiction now." "Officer O'Malley," Simone said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Look up." "I'm looking right at you," he spat. "No," Simone corrected. "Look up. At the monitor. Behind you." O'Malley frowned. He hesitated, sensing the trap, but unable to see it yet. Slowly, he turned his head. The CNN broadcast was still looping the breaking news. The Chiron was flashing Apex Global Ventures acquires airport security firm. And there, frozen on the screen next to the headline, was Simone's face. It was an undeniable match. The woman on the screen was wearing a sharp blazer, and the woman in the terminal was wearing a hoodie, but the eyes, the piercing, intelligent, uncompromising eyes, were identical. O'Malley stared. He blinked. He looked back at Simone, then back at the screen. His brain seemed to misfire. That's you. "That is me," Simone confirmed. "Simone Bisset, CEO of Apex Global Ventures, and as of 6:58 a.m. this morning, the owner of Transatlantic Holdings." She took a step closer. O'Malley instinctively took a step back, bumping into the podium. "Do you know what Transatlantic Holdings manages, Officer O'Malley?" Simone asked, her voice silky and dangerous. O'Malley's mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. "Contracts, logistics, personnel," Simone finished for him. "We manage personnel, specifically the security contracts for this terminal, which means, Officer O'Malley, that as of 17 minutes ago, you don't work for the airport. You work for me." The silence that followed was absolute. The passengers in the line had stopped moving entirely. Phones were raised, recording every second. I didn't know," O'Malley whispered. The arrogance had evaporated, replaced by a cold sweat that was visibly beading on his forehead. "Miss Bisset, we have strict protocols. You have to understand, with the hoodie and the what?" Simone challenged. "Say it. Finish the sentence." O'Malley swallowed hard. He couldn't say it. "You profiled me," Simone said. "You saw a black woman in casual clothes, and you decided I wasn't worth your respect. You decided I was a liar. You decided to humiliate me, to impress a man in a cheap suit." "It was a mistake," O'Malley pleaded, his hands coming up in a gesture of surrender. "I was just being cautious. Security is a high-stress job. I can Mr. O'Malley." The shout came from the far end of the concourse. A man in a disheveled suit was sprinting toward them, flanked by 2 other executives. It was Gerald Henderson, the site director for JFK. He looked like he was having a heart attack. He was clutching a tablet, his tie askew. "Ms. Bissey." Henderson gasped, skidding to a halt in front of her. He was panting heavily. "Ms. Bissey, I am so sorry. I was in a meeting. I saw the alert. My God." He turned to O'Malley with a look of pure fury. "O'Malley, what have you done? Director, Shut up!" Henderson screamed. He turned back to Simone, practically bowing. "Ms. Bissey, this is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. We had a VIP greeter team waiting at Gate B. We didn't know you were coming through the main checkpoint." "I wanted to see how my new company operates on the ground level," Simone said coldly. "And I have seen enough." She turned her gaze back to O'Malley. He looked small now, defeated. "Mr. Henderson," Simone said, "I want Officer O'Malley's badge." "Of course," Henderson said instantly. He held out his hand to O'Malley. "Hand it over. Now." "But my pension," O'Malley stammered, his eyes watering. "I'm 3 years away from full benefits. You can't just—" "You denied access to the owner of the company," Simone said. "You filed a false police report claiming I threatened you. You verbally abused a passenger. You are not just fired, Mr. O'Malley. You are blacklisted. You will never work in security in this state again." O'Malley looked around for help. The other officers looked away. The passengers were watching with grim satisfaction. Slowly, with shaking hands, he unclipped his badge. He placed it in Henderson's hand. "Escort him out," Simone ordered. "And Mendez," Officer Mendez straightened up. "Yes, Ms. Bissey." "You handled the situation with the professionalism I expect," Simone said. "You're promoted to shift lead. Take over the podium." Mendez's jaw dropped. Thank you, ma'am." Simone didn't stay to watch O'Malley's walk of shame. She picked up her bag. "Mr. Henderson, walk with me. We're going to the Windsor suite." Henderson scrambled to keep up. "The lounge, yes, of course. Can I ask why?" Simone smiled, a sharp, predatory curve of her lips. "Because there is one more person who needs to learn a lesson today, and I prefer to deliver my news in person." The Windsor suite at JFK was less of an airport lounge and more of a private country club suspended above the tarmac. It was a world of hushed tones, clinking crystal and upholstery that cost more than most people's mortgages. Arthur Pendleton loved it here. It was his sanctuary. He was currently seated in his favorite corner, a leather armchair by the panoramic window overlooking the runway. A half-empty glass of Krug champagne sat on the low table next to him. He was recounting his morning triumph to a small audience, 2 junior associates from a rival firm and a bored-looking bartender. "So she's standing there," Arthur chuckled, gesturing with a cracker topped with caviar. "Looking like she just rolled out of a dumpster in Brooklyn. Hood-up sneakers. And she tries to tell me she's in global elite. Can you imagine the audacity?" The associates chuckled nervously. "What did security do?" one asked. "Oh, they handled it." Arthur grinned. "O'Malley, good man. O'Malley, he practically threw her into the holding cell. She started screaming about how we'd all regret it. Typical entitlement. Probably hoping someone would film it so she could sue for discrimination." He took a sip of champagne, savoring the bubbles. "It's tragic, really. Used to be you could travel without having to wade through the rabble." At least the system still works occasionally. The heavy double doors of the lounge swung open. Usually the doors opened quietly. This time they swung with force. The room went quiet. Heads turned. Walking in was not a server or a concierge. It was the woman from the checkpoint. Simone Bisset strode into the lounge. She had pushed her hood down now, revealing her face fully. Her hair was pulled back in an elegant, severe bun. She still wore the casual clothes, but the way she walked, shoulders back, chin high, made the hoodie look like royal robes. Flanking her were 3 men in suits: Gerald Henderson, the airport director, and 2 large men from the private security detail who had materialized from the administration wing. Arthur Pendleton froze his cracker halfway to his mouth. He blinked. How had she gotten out, and why was the airport director trailing her like a puppy? Simone scanned the room. Her eyes locked onto Arthur instantly. She didn't shout. She didn't cause a scene. She simply walked straight toward him. The sound of her sneakers on the plush carpet was the only sound in the room. She stopped at his table. She looked down at him. Arthur recovered his composure. He set the cracker down. He smirked, though it was a little tighter this time. Well, well, they let you out on bail already. Or did you slip the cuffs? You know, trespassing in here is a federal offense, sweetheart. I can call O'Malley back up here in a heartbeat. O'Malley is currently being escorted out of the building, Simone said. Her voice was calm, conversational. He doesn't work here anymore. Arthur laughed. Sure. And I suppose you fired him. I did, Simone said. Arthur rolled his eyes. He looked at Henderson. Gerald, you're the director, aren't you? Why is this person harassing me? Get her out. Gerald Henderson stepped forward. He looked pale. He looked at Arthur with a mixture of pity and fear. Mr. Pendleton, I don't think you understand the situation. I understand perfectly, Arthur snapped. This woman is a nuisance. This woman, Simone interrupted, is your landlord. Arthur frowned. What? Simone reached into her pocket. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. She turned it around and placed it on the table in front of Arthur. It was the press release. Apex Global Ventures acquires JFK Logistics. Read the second paragraph, Simone commanded. Arthur looked down. He read. His eyes scanned the text. He saw the name, Apex Global Ventures. He saw the name, Simone Bisset. He looked up at Simone. He looked at the hoodie. Then he looked at her face. The recognition hit him like a physical blow. He had seen her picture in Forbes last month. He just hadn't recognized her without the airbrushing and the power suit. You're Bisset, Arthur whispered. I am, Simone said. And you are sitting in my lounge, drinking my champagne, disrespecting my staff, and insulting me. Arthur scrambled to stand up. Ms. Bisset, I had no idea. It was a misunderstanding. The lighting in the terminal and the way you were dressed. Surely you can understand how one might make an assumption. I don't pay you to make assumptions, Mr. Pendleton, Simone said. I don't pay you at all. You pay me. She picked up the bottle of Krug from the ice bucket. She examined the label. You mentioned earlier that the system works occasionally, Simone said. I agree, and I'm about to make it work right now. She turned to the lounge manager, a woman named Sarah, who was watching from the bar, terrified. Sarah, Simone said. Yes, Miss Bisset? Pull up Mr. Pendleton's membership profile on the system, right now. Sarah tapped frantically on a tablet. I have it, ma'am. Mr. Pendleton holds a diamond tier membership, correct? Simone asked, keeping her eyes locked on Arthur. Yes, ma'am. Cancel it, Simone said. Arthur gasped. You can't do that. I paid $10,000 for that membership. It's a contract. Read the fine print, Arthur, Simone said coldly. Clause 4, Section B membership may be revoked at any time without refund for conduct deemed detrimental to the atmosphere or safety of the club. She leaned in close. Calling the owner of the airport riff-raff is definitely detrimental to the atmosphere. Sarah, Simone continued, is it done? Deleted, ma'am, Sarah said. His status is showing as inactive. Simone smiled. Mr. Pendletons, you are now trespassing in a private club. You have 2 minutes to leave before I have you removed. And since you are no longer a priority member, I'm afraid you'll have to go through security again. The economy line is downstairs, to the left. Follow the blue signs. The room remained silent for a heartbeat. Then someone in the back, a young tech CEO, started to slow clap. Arthur Pendleton turned red, then purple. He grabbed his briefcase. He looked at Henderson, begging for help. Henderson just stared at the floor. This isn't over, Arthur hissed. I'll sue. I know people. I know people too, Simone said. I know the people who own the building. Oh, wait, that's me. She pointed to the door. Get out! Arthur stormed out the wheels of his Louis Vuitton case, clattering loudly, sounding much less expensive than they had 10 minutes ago. As the doors swung shut behind him, Simone let out a long breath. She turned to the room of stunned elites. I apologize for the disturbance, she said, her voice shifting back to professional grace. Please enjoy the champagne. It's on the house today. She sat down in the chair Arthur had just vacated. Mr. Henderson, she said. Yes, Miss Bisset. I missed my flight to Zurich, she said, checking her watch. Get the corporate jet prepped. We leave in an hour. But first, I need a coffee. And not the stuff from the machine. The Gulfstream G650ER, painted in the matte midnight blue of Apex Global Ventures, did not fly to Zurich. Instead, at Simone's command, it remained grounded on the tarmac at JFK. She wasn't leaving the crime scene. She was turning it into her war room. Get them on the screens, Simone ordered, stepping into the jet's conference area. I want the entire board of directors of Transatlantic Holdings, now. Nathaniel Reed, her chief legal officer, was already setting up the secure link. They're scrambling, Simone. Half of them are in London. The other half are waking up in San Francisco. They know what happened at the checkpoint. The video of O'Malley is already on TikTok. It has 3 million views. Good, Simone said, dropping her bag onto a plush leather seat. She didn't change out of her hoodie. She wanted them to see her exactly as O'Malley had. Connect them. The large monitor on the cabin wall flickered to life, splitting into a grid of 12 high-definition feeds. The faces of the transatlantic board, mostly older white men in expensive suits, stared back. They looked anxious. They had sold their company for a premium at dawn, thinking they would cash out and retire. They hadn't expected the buyer to be arrested by their own staff 2 hours later. Ms. Bisset, began Lord Sterling, the chairman of the board, speaking from his office in Canary Wharf. He adjusted his silk tie nervously. On behalf of the entire board, let me express our deepest... Save it. Sterling. Simone cut him off. Her voice was tinny over the speakers, but cut through the air like a razor. I'm not interested in apologies. I'm interested in liability. She leaned forward, placing her hands on the table. I just bought a logistics firm for $4 billion. My first inspection revealed a culture of profiling incompetence and unchecked aggression. If that's how you treat the owner, How are you treating the customers?" "It was a rogue employee," protested Marcus Thorne, the VP of Operations. "O'Malley was a bad apple. We've already authorized his termination." "A bad apple spoils the bunch, Marcus," Simone countered, but I dug a little deeper while I was waiting for my coffee. Nathaniel put the financials on the screen. The grid of faces shrank as a spreadsheet took over the main display. "I had my forensic accounting team look at your vendor contracts during the flight delay," Simone said. "Specifically, the pension fund management and the external auditing contracts." She pointed to a highlighted line item. "You're paying exorbitant management fees to a hedge fund called Pendleton Capital Partners." The silence on the call was deafening. "That's right," Simone said, a cold smile touching her lips. "Arthur Pendleton, the man who stood next to O'Malley and cheered while I was being threatened. The man whose profile was apparently acceptable to your security team." "It's a standard contract," Lord Sterling stammered. "Pendleton has managed the security officer's pension fund for 5 years. His returns are adequate." "His returns are mediocre," Simone corrected. "But his fees are astronomical. And now I know why he felt so comfortable in my airport. He wasn't just a passenger. He was on the payroll. He felt like he owned the place because you were funneling millions of dollars of company money into his pockets." Simone stood up. "Here is the new reality. As the sole owner of Transatlantic, I am exercising the change of control clause in all vendor contracts." "You can't just cancel the pension management," Thorne argued. "There are penalties. It would take months to unwind." "I can, and I have," Simone said. "Nathaniel sent the notice of termination to Pendleton Capital 5 minutes ago. We are pulling the entire $800 million fund from his management effective immediately. We're moving it to Vanguard. Lower fees, better ethics." On the screen, the board members looked horrified. They knew what this meant. Pendleton Capital was a boutique firm. Losing an $800 million anchor client wouldn't just hurt Arthur Pendleton, it would eviscerate him. "But the relationship," Sterling tried to intervene. He is well connected. This will cause a war." "He started the war when he told me to use the staff entrance," Simone said. "I'm just finishing it." She looked at the faces on the screen one last time. "Gentlemen, your golden parachutes just got a lot smaller. I'm launching a full internal audit of Transatlantic's executive compliance. If I find one email, one memo suggesting that you encouraged this profiling culture to speed up lines for your wealthy friends, I will claw back your buyout bonuses so fast your heads will spin. Meeting adjourned." She signaled Nathaniel to cut the feed. The screen went black. Simone sat down, exhaling slowly. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. "You know he's not going to take this lying down," Nathaniel said quietly, closing his laptop. "Pendleton, he's a narcissist. You just took his status and his money in under an hour. He's going to strike back." "I'm counting on it," Simone said. She pulled out her phone and opened Twitter. The hashtag #JFK arrest was trending #1 globally. "He's going to try to spin the narrative. He's going to go to the press." She looked at Nathaniel. "Get the PR team ready, but don't release a statement yet. Let him speak first. Let him dig his own grave." Arthur Pendleton did not go quietly. By 2:00 p.m., the story had mutated from a viral video into a full-blown culture war. The image of Simone Bisset Black, female brilliant, standing in a hoodie while being handcuffed by a white officer, had become a symbol of everything wrong with the corporate hierarchy. But Arthur Pendleton, fueled by champagne and bruised ego, decided he was the victim. He called in a favor at CNBC. He booked a slot on The Closing Bell, A prime-time financial news show. He thought he could use his charm, his suit, and his business logic to explain away the incident as a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by woke mob mentality. Simone sat in her office at Apex Global HQ in Manhattan, watching the broadcast live. Her entire communications team was gathered around the long conference table. "Here he goes," Nathaniel said, turning up the volume. On the screen, Arthur Pendleton sat opposite the anchor. He looked comfortably, freshly groomed, wearing a new suit. He smiled that same condescending smile he had worn at the airport. "Arthur," the anchor began, "you were at the scene at JFK this morning. The internet is calling for your head. You were seen mocking the new owner of the airport. What's your side of the story?" Arthur chuckled, shaking his head. "Look, let's be reasonable here. It was a high-stress environment. Security was on high alert. Ms. Bisset, who I have great respect for, by the way, was dressed unconventionally. She refused to follow security protocols. I simply supported the officers who were trying to keep us safe." "He's lying," Simone said calmly to the room. "He's framing it as safety." "And the comments about her not belonging in the elite lane," the anchor pressed. "Context is everything," Arthur said smoothly. "I was merely pointing out that the lane is for frequent flyers. I had no way of knowing she was an executive. Honestly, this whole thing is a misunderstanding. Ms. Bisset reacted emotionally. She fired a hard-working officer on the spot. She cancelled a business contract out of spite. It's erratic behavior. It makes you wonder if she's emotionally stable enough to run a company of this size." The room in Simone's office gasped. He had just called her unstable on national television. "There it is," Simone said. Her eyes narrowed. "He just played the angry woman card. He thinks that will save him." "We have the footage," her PR director said. "The security cameras from the checkpoint. We pulled them an hour ago. It has audio." "Release it," Simone said. "Not to the press. Post it directly to my personal X account. Raw, unedited." Now, right now, while he's still talking. Back on the TV screen, Arthur was gaining confidence. "I think Ms. Bisset owes the security community an apology. And as for my contract, well, my lawyers will be addressing that wrongful termination. You can't mix personal vendettas with fiduciary duty." Simone's phone buzzed. Uploaded. "Watch," Simone said. On Twitter, the video dropped. It wasn't the shaky cell phone footage from a bystander. This was the high-definition security feed from the ceiling of Terminal 4. It showed everything clearly. It showed Simone politely presenting her ticket. It showed O'Malley sneering. And then, crucially, it showed Arthur Pendleton. The audio was crisp. "Pendleton, listen, darling, the staff entrance is probably around the back. Let the adults through, Pendleton, just arrest her already so I can get a drink. Some of us actually contribute to the economy." Pendleton mouthing to the glass, "Loser." It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was pure, unadulterated malice. The reaction on social media was instantaneous. The comment section exploded. At MarketWatch. "Shocking footage contradicts Pendleton's narrative." At Civil Rights Watch. "This is clear evidence of bias." But the real twist happened on live TV. The anchor, who had an earpiece in, suddenly touched his ear. His face changed. He looked down at his tablet. "Arthur," the anchor said, cutting Arthur off mid-sentence. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Ms. Bisset has just released security footage of the incident." Arthur's smile faltered. "Oh, I'm sure it confirms. We're going to play a clip," the anchor said. They put the video on the split screen. Arthur watched himself on the monitor. He watched himself sneer. He heard his own voice dripping with arrogance, the color drained from his face live on air. It was a slow, agonizing transformation from smugness to sheer terror. He realized in real time that he had just perjured himself in the court of public opinion. "Arthur," the anchor said, his voice hardening, "you just said you were supporting security, but here you are calling a fellow passenger a loser and telling her to use the staff entrance. That doesn't look like safety. That looks like harassment." Well, it was a joke," Arthur stammered. "It was banter. And the contract," the anchor continued, looking at breaking news coming across the wire. "We're getting reports that Vanguard has just confirmed they are taking over the Transatlantic Pension Fund. And, wow, we're hearing that 3 other major institutional clients of Pendleton Capital are calling for an emergency review of their funds." Arthur stood up. He ripped the microphone off his lapel. I have to go. This is an ambush." "It's not an ambush, Arthur," the anchor said to the empty chair as Arthur fled the set. "It's the news." Back in Simone's office, the room erupted in applause, but Simone didn't clap. She just watched the empty chair on the TV screen. "It's not done," she said softly. "He still has his wealth. He still has his personal accounts. Karma isn't done with him yet." "What do you mean?" Nathaniel asked. Simone tapped the table. "Arthur Pendleton is currently under investigation by the SEC for insider trading. It was a quiet rumor I picked up in Zurich last year, but nobody had the smoking gun. And, Simone smiled, when I bought Transatlantic, I inherited their communication logs, including the private emails between Pendleton and the former CFO of the security firm. Emails where they discussed optimizing the stock price before the acquisition." She slid a manila folder across the table to Nathaniel. "He didn't just insult me, Nathaniel. He was insider trading on the company I just bought. Send this to the SEC Enforcement Division. Tonight." Nathaniel opened the folder. He whistled low. "This is prison time. Real prison time." "He wanted to see the inside of a cell," Simone said, picking up her coffee. "I'm just making sure he gets the full experience." The downfall of Arthur Pendleton did not happen in a boardroom or a television studio. It happened at 6:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, exactly 1 week after the incident at JFK. Arthur was awake in his penthouse overlooking Central Park. He hadn't slept well since the closing bell disaster. His phone had been ringing non-stop, clients pulling funds, partners resigning, and social media notifications that poured in like toxic sludge. He was drinking coffee, staring out at the city he used to think he owned, trying to figure out how to salvage the wreckage of his life. He was formulating a plan to sue Simone for defamation, convincing himself that he was the victim of a vindictive crusade. Then came the knock at the door. It wasn't the polite rap of a concierge. It was the heavy, authoritative pounding of federal law enforcement. Arthur froze. He set his coffee down. He walked to the door, his hands shaking. He checked the peephole. The hallway was filled with agents in windbreakers, emblazoned with 3 letters FBI. "Arthur Pendleton, open the door. We have a warrant for your arrest." He opened the door. "This is harassment," he shouted, though his voice cracked. "My lawyer will—" "Arthur Pendleton," the lead agent announced, stepping inside and bypassing Arthur's weak attempt to block the way. "You are under arrest for securities fraud, insider trading, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Turn around and place your hands behind your back." The parallel was cruel and poetic. Just a week ago, Arthur had laughed while watching a woman be handcuffed because he thought she didn't belong in his world. Now he was the one feeling the cold steel of the cuffs clicking against his wrists. "You can't do this," Arthur whimpered as they marched him out of his own apartment. "Do you know who I am?" "Yeah," the agent said, guiding him into the elevator. "You're the guy who bet against the market and lost. And thanks to Ms. Bisset, we have every single email you sent to the CFO of Transatlantic. You didn't even use encryption. Amateur." As Arthur was led out of his building, the paparazzi were waiting. Simone hadn't called them, but in New York, blood in the water attracts sharks. The cameras flashed blindingly. Arthur tried to hide his face, ducking his head, looking small and defeated. The photos would be on the front page of every paper by noon. The Wolf of Wall Street caged. 6 months later, JFK Terminal 4 looked the same on the surface, the same high ceilings, the same bustle of travelers. But the soul of the place had changed. Simone Bisset walked through the sliding glass doors. She wasn't wearing a hoodie this time. She was in a tailored cream suit that radiated quiet power. But more importantly, she wasn't surrounded by bodyguards. She walked alone, carrying her own bag. She approached the security checkpoint. The Global Elite sign was gone. In its place was a sleek new sign, Priority Access. But next to it, the standard lanes were moving just as fast. Under Simone's new management, the Bisset protocol had been implemented. It was a complete overhaul of airport security culture. The staff were paid 20% above the industry standard, but the training requirements were rigorous. De-escalation was mandatory. Profiling was a fireable offense. The goal was efficiency for everyone, not just those with black cards. Standing at the podium was shift lead Mendez. Her uniform was crisp, her posture confident. She was no longer the timid officer afraid to speak up. She was running the floor with precision. Mendez looked up and saw Simone. A genuine smile broke across her face. "Good morning, Ms. Bisset," Mendez said. "Heading to Zurich." "Finally." Simone smiled back. "I think the transition is stable enough for me to take a few days off." "How is the team?" "Morale is up," Mendez reported. "Turns out, when you treat people with respect, they work harder." "Who knew?" "We knew," Simone said. She placed her boarding pass on the scanner. It beeped green instantly. "Have a safe flight, ma'am," Mendez said. "Thank you, Mendez. You're doing a great job." As Simone walked toward the airside corridor, she glanced through the large glass windows toward the parking lot shuttle bus area. It was a habit she had developed recently. Down on the curb, wearing a neon yellow vest that was 2 sizes too tight, was a man directing traffic. He was waving a baton, shouting at a taxi that had stopped in a no-idle zone. It was R. O'Malley. After being blacklisted from security work in the tri-state area, his only option had been an entry-level position as a curbside traffic monitor for a third-party valet company. He spent his days breathing exhaust fumes and being yelled at by stressed travelers. Simone watched him for a brief second. He looked miserable. He looked tired. But mostly, he looked irrelevant. She didn't feel a surge of glee. She didn't feel the need to go down there and gloat. The ledger was balanced. The universe had corrected itself. She turned away from the window and walked toward the Windsor Lounge. The lounge was quiet. She ordered a coffee black, no sugar, and sat by the window. She pulled out her tablet to check the news. The lead story on the financial page was the sentencing of Arthur Pendleton. The judge had been harsh, citing the egregious breach of public trust. He was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, and his assets were being liquidated to pay the fines. The Pendleton capital firm was defunct. The penthouse was on the market. Simone closed the article. She didn't need to read the details. She had lived the story. A young waitress approached her table. She looked nervous. "Excuse me, Miss Bisset." Simone looked up. "Yes. I wanted to say thank you," the waitress said, clutching her tray. "I used to work the morning shift when Mr. Pendleton came in. He was difficult. Since you took over and banned people like him, it's just been a lot better to work here. So thank you." Simone softened. This was the real victory. It wasn't about the billions of dollars or the viral fame or seeing her enemies in handcuffs. It was about this, clearing the air, making the space breathable for the people who actually kept the world moving. "You're welcome," Simone said gently. "What's your name?" "Chloe." "Well, Chloe," Simone said, lifting her coffee cup in a small toast. "To a new era." "To a new era." Chloe smiled. Simone took a sip of her coffee. It was hot, strong, and perfect. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Nathaniel. Subject: next acquisition. Body. "The deal for the London Heathrow logistics contract is on the table. They're asking if you're interested." Simone looked out at the runway where her jet was being fueled. She thought about the tired, arrogant faces of the old guard in London. She thought about the global elite lanes that still existed all over the world. She typed back, "I'm interested. Book the meeting. Let's go shake things up." She stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked toward the gate. The work wasn't done. There were more barriers to break, more bullies to humble, and more glass ceilings to shatter. And Simone Bisset was just getting started. And that is the incredible story of how Simone Bisset turned a moment of disrespect into a total corporate takeover. It's a powerful reminder that you never know who you're talking to, and that arrogance is the quickest way to lose everything. Simone didn't just get revenge, she got justice. She fixed the system not just for herself, but for every employee like Officer Mendez and every waitress like Chloe. What do you think? Did Arthur and O'Malley get what they deserved, or was the karma too harsh? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of instant regret and billionaire justice, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. We drop new stories of drama, karma, and twists every week, and trust me, you do not want to miss the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay humble, and I'll see you in the next video.